Rain fell in steady sheets across the foothills of eastern Colorado, washing the blood from Sergeant Elias Kane's knuckles. He stood still, breathing heavily, one boot pressing down on the chest of the thing that had once been a warrior of the Qatari Dominion, 7 feet tall, 4 arms, armored with bone-like plating, and now very, very dead. Kane looked around. Smoke curled from the wreckage of a downed alien drop pod, its thrusters still hissing as they cooled. Scattered nearby were the bodies of its escort Unicator soldiers, each one bred for war, genetically sculpted for dominance. The Dominion had conquered 99 worlds with these monsters. Earth was meant to be the 100th. Clean, fast, efficient. That was the plan. Anyway, Elias wiped his blade on the mossy ground. It wasn't regulation issue. It was handmade, forged after Chicago fell. He had burned his wife's wedding ring into the pommel. It helped him remember what they were fighting for. The cum in his ear crackled. Alpha 3 status. He tapped the mic. Drop zone secure. 6 hostiles neutralized. No survivors. Copy. We've got movement along Ridge 6. Confirming second. Wave landing. ETA. 12 minutes. Fall back to rally point. Kane looked at the rising smoke, the cracked armor of the Qatari. No, this wasn't done yet. Negative, he said. I'm staying put. If they're landing here again, I'll greet them personally. There was a long pause. Understood, Alpha 3. You'll have drone cover in 5. Don't be a damn hero. He smiled grimly. No promises. Far above, the storm clouds parted for a moment, and through the break in the sky, Kane saw one of the Dominion's carriers miles wide, matte black, shaped like a floating mountain. It hung there like a god, immune to everything Earth had thrown at it so far. They came expecting another easy conquest. They saw the chaos in our systems, the disunity, the debt, the infighting. What they didn't see, what they couldn't understand was the kind of madness born when a world has everything to lose. Elias crouched behind a stone outcropping and opened his pack. Inside was a shaped charge, stolen from the Dominion's first strike team 3 weeks ago. He'd learned to read their interface. Spent every night since the ambush in Idaho Valley, decoding their language. He knew just enough now to make this thing blow. He didn't need to kill them all. Just enough. Just fast enough. Just loud enough to remind the galaxy that Earth wasn't a prize, it was a problem. Thunder cracked overhead as the next wave came streaking in. 3 pods, descending, fast, screaming against gravity, glowing red like falling stars. They slammed into the ground in a triangle pattern, their impact flattening trees, throwing dirt into the air like a grenade going off. Kane didn't flinch. He waited. The pods hissed open, steam pouring out in coils. Then came the footsteps. He'd learned to count them. Heavy, calculated, measured. The Dominion didn't run, they advanced. It was psychological, like watching a guillotine being slowly lowered. He stood. One of them saw him first, a squad leader, probably. Its body was armored in violet plating, eyes glowing with artificial intelligence. It raised its weapon and barked something in its tongue. Kane didn't understand the words, but he got the tone. Kneel, surrender, obey. He smiled and held up the detonator in his right hand. His left, empty, palms out. He pressed the button. The shaped charge exploded beneath the lead Qatari, ripping it in half. The others scattered, surprised not by the explosion, but by the fact that any human had the nerve to strike first. He charged, blade drawn, no battle cry, no speech, just violence. 2 minutes later, the rain was thicker with steam and smoke. The Dominion squad lay broken around him. Elias leaned against a tree, blood pouring down his side. One of the Qatari had grazed him badly, but he was alive. His cum buzzed. Alpha 3, do you copy? He spat blood. Still here. Visuals confirm 3 destroyed pods. 4, Qatari, down. 7. Jesus. Kani. He wiped his face and looked up at the massive ship above. Its silhouette was growing larger. They were sending more good. Let them come, he whispered it to himself, like a prayer. They conquered 99 worlds. Earth was the 100th mistake. And this time, the mistake was going to fight back. The medics. Hands worked fast, sealing the gash along Kane's side with foam and fire. It stung like hell. The kind of pain that let you know you were still alive. He bit down on a piece of leather, blood running down his jawline, mixing with the dirt and rain. We don't have time for field surgery, Doc said, voice flat. You get hit like that again, and your organs are going to fall out like loose ammo. I'll hold, Kane muttered. You always say that, and I'm always right. The ground rumbled beneath them, distant, steady, unnatural. It wasn't thunder, it was footsteps. Not individual Qatari squads this time, not drop pods. No, this was heavier, slower, coordinated. Artillery walkers. The Dominion's mobile fortress units. Doc looked up, face pale under the mud. We're not equipped for that. No, Kane agreed. We're not. He tapped his comm. Alpha 3 to blackout team. Do you see the ridgeline movement? A new voice answered. Young and raw. Corporal Yara confirmed. 4 walkers. Mixed formation. Qatari heavy infantry on foot around them. What's the payload? Each walker's got a mounted plasma cannon and drone pods. The big one in the center has a command beacon. Kane grinned through the pain. That beacon's our target. Yara hesitated. Sir, with all due respect, there's no way we take that out without anti-armor. We've got rifles and grit. Grit is all we need. He stood, breath hitching, in his chest, and looked up toward the ridge. The shadows were moving. Trees pushed aside, mud quaking under armored feet. He could feel them, even through his boots. The Qatari always deployed walkers when they wanted to send a message, when resistance was irritating, but not dangerous, when they were reminding a species of its place in the food chain. 2 bad humans had a history of rewriting the food chain. Kane gathered his team, 12 in all, some young, some old. None of them had been soldiers before the invasion. Not really. Teachers, electricians, gamers, truckers. All with one thing in common. They had nothing left to lose. He pointed to a narrow ravine just below the walkers. Path. We're going to bait them into the pass. Force them into single file. And then, Yara asked. Kane handed her a backpack filled with scavenged Dominion tech, still sparking with alien energy. Then you detonate this under the command walker. It's tied to the Qatari beacon. You bring that down, their whole battle net scrambles. Yara took it slowly, as if it might bite her. We're all gonna die, she said, but without fear, more like she was just stating the weather. Kane nodded. Maybe, but they'll die first. 10 minutes later, the humans were in position. Kane crouched beside a rotting tree stump, breath fogging in the cold air, hand on the grip of his rifle. He could hear the mechanical rhythm of the walkers, now like drums of war. Then they appeared, monsters of black alloy and red plasma cores, towering, lumbering. Each one had a Qatari command pilot, nestled in a cage of armor and wiring. Their movements synced to the machine. Around them, dozens of Qatari warriors moved in sync, rifles at the ready. YARA was already in the ravine, waiting. Kane didn't give a signal. Didn't need to. As the first walker's heavy foot crashed into the center of the ravine, the bomb, activated, silent, deadly, unseen. The second walker followed. Then the third, the fourth, larger, angrier. Lit with red command, Glyph stepped in. Just as the ground erupted, a wall of fire swallowed it from below, shredding its underbelly, and throwing molten debris in every direction. The concussion wave knocked the Qatari foot soldiers 50 feet through the air. The shock split the line in half. Confusion, static. Shouting in alien code, Kane rose and fired. His team did the same. Explosives roared from the tree line, piercing the legs of the nearest walker. Human rifles cracked in rhythm. Kaitari howled and scattered, their AI-enhanced helmets blinking in disarray. Their net was down. They couldn't coordinate. One of the walkers turned to flee. It didn't make it far. Yara emerged from the smoke, covered in mud and ash, plasma rifle stolen from a dead Kaitari gripped in both hands. She fired once, twice, 3 times. The walker exploded like a THUNDERCLAP, and just like that, it was over. Smoke curled through the trees. Human breath fogged the air. One of Kane's men whispered, "We just wiped out a Kaitari mechanized unit with 12 people and a bomb built from junk." Kane sat down slowly, coughing blood, laughing through it. "They never studied history," he said. "We fought with sticks, stones, bows, fire, knives, nukes, and fists. They brought a war to the wrong planet." He looked up at the sky, where the Dominion carrier still floated. "You hear me up there?" he growled. "Send more. We're just getting started." Orbit was quiet. From this far above, Earth looked soft, blue, green, flecked with clouds. The Dominion carrier, Ulzar Voth, hung in its exosphere, a predator cloaked in shadow. Inside it buzzed with tension. Overlord Sarek Duvarn paced in front of the holosphere, his claws flexing against the floor's obsidian tile. His armor shimmered with ceremonial glyphs, but his eyes, 4 of them, were locked on the data feed scrolling in Kaitari script. 72 confirmed losses, muttered the logistics officer, barely audible. 4 walkers. To beacon control. Units. 16 elite ground troops. In just 20 rotations. Against primitives, Sarek hissed. His voice rumbled like gravel soaked in venom. On their 100th conquest, the Dominion bleeds. The chamber fell still. Sarek turned toward the War Council. 15 figures in command robes stood on elevated platforms, floating slightly above the floor in zero-G. All of them watched him, evaluating, judging, waiting for weakness. He snarled, "I want orbital burns over their rebel zones. Glass every tree from Colorado to the East Ocean." "Denied," said a voice from the side. Admiral Cryan stepped forward, taller than Sarek, with skin like molten copper and 6 fingers on each hand. His rank glyphs shimmered coldly. "The human defense net is still partially intact. We target the wrong nodes, we lose cruisers." Sarek bared his fangs. "They're animals." "They're organized animals," Cryan replied calmly. "And unlike the other 99 species, they learn as they bleed, fast." There was a pause, then a signal buzzed. "Incoming transmission," the tech adept called out. "From Surface Field Unit, K7, live." The holosphere flickered, and a new image emerged. A Kaitari soldier, helmet off, breathing heavy, one of his lower arms limp and shredded. His armor was charred, his left eye gone. "Commander ... This is K7 Field Leader Jarak," the soldier rasped. "You will not address the War Council in that state," Sarek growled. "There's no time," Jarak snapped. "We walked into a grave. They had a beacon trap. They moved like one mind. They use our dead tech, understand it. Use it against us. These aren't just survivors. They're hunters." "You failed," Sarek said coldly. Jarak looked up into the holosphere lens. "I was the only one who crawled away. The rest were vaporized." The humans didn't run. They laughed. There was silence in the chamber. "They're not scared of us anymore," Jarak whispered. Then the feed went dead. Sarek stood there, frozen. Fury warred with disbelief. He slammed a clawed fist into the holosphere, shattering part of its image. "Prepare the glass fangs," he ordered. "Deploy orbital drills. We'll sink into their crust and burn them from the inside out." "They'll respond," Cryan said. "I want them to." On the surface, Elias Kane didn't sleep. The bunker was half collapsed. The walls still shook from the last orbital blast. But the old power lines in this part of Wyoming still carried juice, somehow. So they'd wired a grid into the stone, enough to keep the sensors online and the coffee lukewarm. Kane stared at the map, red dots everywhere. Dominion landing zones, no longer isolated. The invasion had scaled. They're committing everything, Yara said behind him. He didn't look up. That's not a victory. It means we're hurting them. Kane turned. His face looked older, sharper. Rage had carved deep canyons into his expression. It means we're waking up the monster. You ever wound a wolf and think it'll run away? No. It bites harder, and it doesn't stop until you crush its spine. Yara looked at the map. Then let's break its back. Kane smiled slightly. We're close. She raised a brow. 2. What? He pointed to the largest red dot near the Rockies. Their command drill. The glass fang. It's burrowing under the earth, but it's not indestructible. We don't have an air force. No, Kane said. But we have the Denver blackout grid, 2 tank shells we haven't used, and a very, very angry civilian pilot who used to crop dust at Mach 1. Yara stared. You're serious. I'm always serious when I'm out of options. That night, the plan went into motion. The pilot's name was Joe. No rank, no uniform. Just a flight suit, a scar across his chin, and an old American flag patch duct taped to his shoulder. Never flown something this ugly, he muttered as he climbed into the rigged stealth glider. But I flew over fires worse than this. In 29 I landed a prop plane in a lightning storm because my wife said the barn was on fire. She was in it, Yara asked. No, Joe said. The whiskey was. The glider lifted. Its payload was primitive. 2 tank busters strapped under the wings, triggered by proximity fuse. Kane and Yara watched from the ridge as it disappeared into the black sky. 5 minutes later, it screamed downward, just as the Dominion drill emerged like a black spike from the crust. Their ship opened like a mechanical flower, red lights flashing, heat shields glowing. Joe didn't blink. The glider dove. The bombs dropped. The glass fang erupted like a volcano of metal and alien blood. Back in orbit, Sarek saw the detonation from the Arvoth's sensors. He didn't speak, but his claws dug into the edge of the council table until they cracked stone. Earth wasn't conquered, it was sharpening its teeth, and the Kaitari Dominion had just felt them sink in. The sky was the wrong color. Over what used to be Kansas, it bled orange and green, smeared with high-altitude plasma smoke and the trail scars of Dominion skybreakers. Day and night had become a rumor here, a vague rhythm marked only by the rise and fall of battle. Elias Kane stood at the edge of a ravine carved by a Kaitari orbital strike 5 days ago. The dirt still smoked. Trees had become black skeletons. The wind carried no bird song, just the low whine of broken machines, and the whisper of drones that didn't belong here. A child's shoe sat in the mud. He stared at it longer than he should have. Behind him, his unit was silent, thinned now, half of them injured. 3 new faces had joined volunteers from the new Pacific Front. One of them was a linguist who spoke fluent Kaitari now, learned it from intercepted broadcasts. Another was a demolition tech who used to work for a fireworks company in rural Texas. Earth had no standing army left, just people, angry ones, smart ones, hurt ones, and that was more dangerous than any. Formation. Yara approached, her face hard. Scout drone just returned. We found it. Kane turned. The forward spear. Yeah. Landed outside Topeka. They're calling it a diplomatic post, but it's a fortress. 3 shield domes. A full Kaitari command circle. They're gathering leaders from the other Dominion species. Kane frowned, trying to make an example. Yara nodded. Or bait us. He crouched and picked up a stick, drawing a crude map in the ash. We hit from the east. The hills give us partial cover. We jam their comes, sneak inside the secondary dome, plant an E-bomb from the old Titan array we salvaged. There's something else. She interrupted. He looked up. Yara hesitated. They're broadcasting again. Live, planet-wide. Kane stood slowly, heart sinking. Let me hear it. She tapped her earpiece, and the feed crackled to life. The voice was smooth, inhuman, but clear. Male, almost royal. Sarek Duvarn, the Dominion's mouthpiece. People of Earth, we acknowledge your resistance. We even admire it. You have fought with courage, with cunning. But let us remind you, courage is not victory. Cunning is not conquest. You have delayed the inevitable. A pause. But the Dominion does not conquer with hate. We conquer with order. And for those who surrender, there will be mercy. Then the transmission shifted, static washed out, and a new image filled the horizon. Topeka. 3 domes, glowing under alien light, and at their center, prisoners. Humans, stripped of gear, bruised, beaten but alive. Soldiers, civilians, children, they are unharmed, for now, but their fate, as with your species, rests in your leader's hands. You have one Earth rotation to respond. The broadcast ended. Kane said nothing, just stared at the dome burning on the horizon. Behind him, someone muttered, "If we go in, we'll lose everyone." Another voice, "If we don't, they'll kill them live." Yara turned to Kane. Well, he didn't move. Not for a long time then. Finally, he said, "We're not going to hit them." Shock rippled through the unit. What? He looked up. We're going to walk in. 3 hours later, a convoy of scorched, repurposed Dominion transport sleds emerged from the west side of the Topeka ruins. Kane stood at the front, hands raised. He wore a tattered Kaitari officer's coat. Blood dried on the cuffs. Behind him, 30 armed humans in disguised gear, every one of them trained for death and ready to die. The guards outside the dome shouted warnings. Kane stopped, spoke, in flawless Kaitara learned, from the linguist who died in the mines of Nevada 2 weeks prior. "We are emissaries. We come to talk." Confused chatter. Then, the gates opened. The humans entered the second dome. It was massive, glowing, and full of Dominion brass. Alien species from 3 sectors. Tentacled, scaled, plated, watching with curious disdain. At the far end stood Sarek himself, taller than the reports, clad in command-forged armor, etched with conquest runes. His voice echoed across the chamber. "You presume much, human." Kane didn't flinch. "You asked for leadership. Here we are. You think this gesture matters? I don't care what it means to you. I came to deliver something." Sarek tilted his head. "And what is that?" Kane reached into his coat, pulled out a black stone. Threw it. It clinked once against the metal floor, then began to hum. The E-bomb ignited. Instant silence. Every Dominion device in the chamber, every shield, weapon, translator, and visual feeds shorted out. Dead in the next breath. The disguised humans moved. Knives, guns, gauntlets, spikes, silent death in every direction. Yara leaped from the second platform and drove a spear into the throat of a scaled diplomat. Joe, the pilot, hurled a blade through a Kaitari officer's eye. Kane disarmed 2 guards and buried a blade in Sarek's side before the warlord even realized what had happened. Sarek roared and staggered back, clutching his chest. "You think this changes anything?" He spat. Kane leaned in close, grabbing him by the throat. "No, but it starts something." Then he pressed the charge into Sarek's ribs and shoved him off the dais. The blast lit the dome from inside, brief and brilliant. When the light faded, Kane stood alone in the smoke, blood running down his face. Topeka burned behind him, and somewhere far above, on a Dominion ship orbiting a broken world, someone finally understood. Earth wasn't fighting to survive. It was fighting to win. The Dominion fleet was in retreat, not full, not organized, just fractured, wounded, scattered, stunned. What had begun as a one-sided occupation had become a firestorm. And now Earth's resistance, once divided by continents and culture, moved with singular purpose. They weren't just defending anymore. They were hunting above the northern hemisphere. The sky turned to ash. Wreckage from the Olzar Voth, once the pride of the Kaitari war fleet, now spun slowly as it fell, its armored hull torn open by its own fuel cores, detonated from the inside. No Dominion vessel had expected a breach from inside their bridge. They hadn't anticipated human engineers rebuilding salvaged Kaitari stealth suits. They hadn't thought a primitive species could fake Dominion command clearance. They were wrong. All of them were wrong. On the ground below, Elias Kane limped through the skeleton of a Kaitari outpost, his boots crunching glass and bone. The last firefight here had lasted 7 minutes. 12 humans, 27 Kaitari, none of them left alive but him. He moved like a man chasing death, or trying to outrun it. His ribs were wrapped in synthetic bandage. One eye was swollen shut, but in his grip, the Dominion commander's shard blade still hummed, stolen and repurposed. Behind him, Yara and the remnants of Alpha 3 followed, bloodied, burned, silent. They had fought for every inch of the Pacific Corridor, Portland, Eugene, San Francisco's cratered ruins. The Kaitari had left nothing standing, so now, neither did they. Their target lay just over the ridge, a relay tower the Dominion had used to communicate with their outer fleets, still operational, still beaming messages across the stars. Kane knew the truth. They weren't asking for reinforcements anymore. They were begging for rescue. The squad reached the base of the tower by nightfall. The sky above pulsed with aurora caused by failing orbitals and burnt magnetic fields. Earth's wounds were visible from the heavens, but so were its scars and its teeth. Kane knelt beside a fallen Kaitari scout, picked up a plasma pistol, and handed it to Yara. "Cover the south slope. Expect reinforcements." She nodded. "What about you?" "I'm going up." He entered the tower alone. Inside, Dominion tech still blinked and pulsed. The language was alien, but Kane had learned its rhythm. Fear made you study fast. Vengeance made you fluent. At the top of the tower, a transmission cycled, repeating, on loop, Sarek's voice, pre-recorded before his death, to the outer fleets of the Dominion. Earth is contested. Resistance is contained. Reinforcements will ensure total compliance. Kane stood over the console. He reached into his jacket, pulled out a crystal shard, the same type the Kaitari used to seed fleet-wide updates. But this one had been rewritten, reprogrammed, not by soldiers, but by survivors, hackers in ruined cities, scientists in bunkers, teenagers with nothing but rage and stolen signal taps. He slotted the shard into the console. The message began to overwrite new words now, a new voice. His. "This is Elias Kane, Commander Earth Resistance Network." He paused, staring into the lens. "Message to the Dominion. We are not your conquest. We are not your mistake. We are your extinction." He leaned closer. "You thought we were alone? We're not. Every world you took, every species you crushed, they're watching, and now they see you bleed." A tremor rolled through the tower as the Kaitari scrambled below, trying to stop the signal. Too late. Kane ended the recording with one last line, "Earth stands." He pulled the blade from his back and turned as the door exploded inward. They came fast, loud, but he was faster, and he was silent. 1 week later, the last Dominion warship abandoned low orbit. It didn't leave with a roar. It limped away, trailing smoke and silence. Across Earth's surface, fires still burned, cities still crumbled, skies still groaned with radiation and storm. But in the streets, humans stood, some with guns, some with nothing but fists, all of them alive. In a shattered church in Quebec, a girl painted 100 across a broken Dominion flag. In Tokyo, scavengers turned enemy drone parts into prosthetic limbs. In Johannesburg, farmers drove tanks. In Kansas, where it all began. Yara planted a flag, made from her fallen unit's jackets and blood. No emblem, no government, just fabric and memory. She looked to the stars. The war wasn't over, not by a long shot, but the galaxy had learned a lesson it would never forget. Earth was not the 100th conquest, it was the first. Resistance and humanity had just begun. Asterisk.